The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order! The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan J. Schlender presiding. Will you all rise for the Honorable Judge Schlender?
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice, Hell on Reels. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Urban Legend, a 1998 slasher film about a homicidal maniac who kills off university students using methods popularized by well-known myths. For those of you unfamiliar with our spooky court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of the sin of being a bad movie. If so, it shall be cast for all eternity into the fiery pits of movie hell, upon which this courthouse just so happens to be built. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Distinguished members of the jury, Your Honor, have you guys ever heard the story of the 90s teenage slasher movie that tried to piggyback off the success of Scream, but failed so miserably it helped contribute to the fastest case of genre fatigue ever known to man? They say this particular movie lurked in dark cinemas around the Halloween season of 1998, terrorizing and disappointing its many hapless victims, the unknowing and aloof theatergoers of the Clinton era. Its weapon of choice? Extremely contrived and overly elaborate killing sequences that made the movie impossible to take seriously. And a twist ending so preposterous, it will have you standing up shouting, "That's preposterous!" Some who have seen it say it looked like any normal R-rated slasher movie, but others who've seen it closer up swear it has a particularly tame murder sequence and complete absence of full frontal nudity. They say it wasn't even really any kind of R-rated slasher film they've seen before. No, it was something else. And they say that on dark, moonlit nights, a lot like tonight, you can still hear the mournful cries of the damned souls who paid good money to see this movie. "I want a refund," they moan. "Where's my goddamn refund?" Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Jeff Belanger and Mr. Ray Auger. Please present your opening statement.
Hi, this is Ray. I would like to present my case to the jury, or my opening statement, and I'm sorry I'm not as shiny as the prosecutor there, but I'll do the best that I can. This movie, 1998's Urban Legend, I believe I will be able to prove, or Jeff and myself will be able to prove by the end of the show, that it's not a good movie, but it's also not a bad movie. I think that's going to be our case here. And I want to look at the fact that this is an R-rated movie, and it did not shy away from trying to gather a younger audience. The prosecutor mentions the tameness of some of the murders, which I see as a positive in this case, where you're going to be able to get away with watching this with your 13-year-old son or daughter. I don't want to be sexist here. Women also like horror movies. That is where we're going to be moving towards, I believe, in our defense of Urban Legend. Yes, indeed, it did come at the end of a long line of fantastic movies from Mr. Kevin Williamson. If it's a copycat of a horror genre. It's a copycat of Kevin Williamson. And any kind of copycatting, if that is a word, is a show
I'll
of
allow it.
respect. Oh, good. Thank you. It's a show of respect. And let's go through that list real quick. I'll be touching on this a little bit later on, but we have Scream from 1996, which I don't think there's an argument. That is the movie that made this genre, brought back a genre, I should say, while creating its own. Followed by I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream 2, The Faculty. Those are four movies that range from 1996 to 1998. And by the time The Faculty came out, it was time for at least one more. So if it pleases the court, I would like to offer this thought. Not a great movie, not a bad movie, a much needed movie to round out the five top horror films from 1996 to 1998.
Well said, Ray. If may I add
Yes,
to this
please.
a bit. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's a reason that those songs that you love for years and years, decades even, are so popular, right? Rolling Stone songs, anything by ABBA, Britney Spears, even, right? They're so familiar. They play in our head. They're the soundtracks to our lives. That is also the way urban legends work. When you're seeing this movie, you almost know what's going to happen because it's like a refrain in a song. It's like when the chorus comes around and you're like, oh, I know how this goes. It's familiar. It's comfortable. It's like an old cozy jacket that you just love to wear. And until I had seen this movie, I would have sworn on a stack of Bibles as tall as the tallest building that there's no such thing as perfect casting in any movie ever. But then, in 1998, a little movie called Urban Legend came out, and they casted Robert Freddy Krueger England as the professor of the Urban Legends course, and I stood corrected forevermore.
just to add to that, Jeff, I'd also like to mention that Brad Dourif, who plays the voice of Chucky in all
Mhm.
seven Chucky movies, also played a role. And in a very clever twist of writing, he also played Billy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with a stutter. His character in this movie had a stutter for you deep movie fans there.
Whoa.
And one more very noticeable cameo, not even a cameo, small role, Daniel Harris from Halloween 4 and 5 and Rob Zombie's remakes.
Well said, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Auger and Mr. Belanger. Prosecution, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Well, I guess since we discussed a bit about Scream, I'll talk immediately about that point. Now, again, like we said, this was made 2 years after Scream. And it's obvious that it's a complete Scream wannabe. There's, in fact, a scene where the protagonist and all her friends sit around in a coffee shop and discuss what the killer's next potential methods might be, who the next victims might be, and why they're doing it. Now, in Scream, we understand why the characters are so detached from the horrors around them. They've been desensitized to violence thanks to horror movies, to even the extreme that a couple of them commit actual murders. So the macabre conversations they carry on are not unnatural. But the students in Urban Legend don't seem to have any reason to be so detached from the horrors going on around them. They're just average college kids. So it seems like they're really forced to be doing it just so the movie feels a bit more like Scream.
What do you guys think? Monkey see, monkey do when it comes to Scream here?
I'm going to say they had a few years to copycat Scream. They didn't. Scream 2 had come out already. Perhaps this was in the works when Scream came out. There were thousands of writers in Hollywood that were trying to make a copycat Scream. Hey, I had a script 10 years before Scream that was very similar to Scream that still remains in a notebook somewhere at the bottom of my drawer. So I would have
I've
to
seen
say
it.
that
It's amazing.
yeah, right.
Well, that's not on trial here.
Right.
We'll enter it as evidence.
I
It was
would
called
have to,
Shout.
That's right. Every movie that came out was going to be a copycat. Kevin Williamson himself copycatted Scream with his follow-ups. I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream 2, of course. And the Faculty, in its own weird way, is a Kevin Williamson ripoff of his own Kevin Williamson work. But I think that when it was time to be done, when we thought we had gone to the well one too many times, I do believe using the same formula there was still a different approach to urban legend, with the tropes being horror movies and Scream, the tropes in urban legend obviously being urban legend. So I will give it a unique stamp of approval, even though it's based on what we knew from Scream. Jeff?
Uh, I'll say this: when you're working in genre, there's certain things that the audience expects, and it delivered a lot of those things. But we also expect something different that makes your movie stand out from just another slasher film. And I love the fact that it played on so many urban legends, not just the big and obvious ones, but there were tiny little references to. I mean, everything from like the girl who called into the show and she had given oral sex to her boyfriend and needs her stomach pumped. There's a super quick reference in there to the song Love Roller Coaster. Roller
Mhm.
Coaster. There's a
Love,
scream
love.
in the song. Yeah, right? That scream that they say is a real murder scream that was captured and put into the song. Like, that's even mentioned. It is so obscure, so teeny tiny, and not true, by the way. Like, that it's not a real murder scream in the song. But I love the fact that they put in all these little nuggets. A person like me who simply adores legends found many a little tiny Easter egg that I could appreciate along the way while I'm watching a genre slasher film. And as Ray said earlier, without the full frontal nudity. This is a
Oh, I said that. I said that, sir, and it was a negative.
Sorry.
It was a negative.
Order in the
No.
court.
I say it's a positive.
Oh,
I say thank you, prosecutor. I can watch this slasher film with my young children who just finished watching Bambi.
And let me just add this: if those were the
Please.
Easter eggs, Jeff, then I would have to say the Pop Rocks scene
Of
was the
course.
chocolate bunny.
don't
Yes.
get me on the pop rock scene. Don't. I don't want to start on it.
My favorite.
All right, I think both sides made some very good points about this being a Scream knockoff or doing its own thing. We'll let the
Ray,
jury
we're
decide.
totally winning right now. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Well, we'll let the jury decide. I think it's some very good points for them to consider. Mr. Bangs, you could move on to your next exhibit, please.
Well, we did mention Scream, right? Now, we couldn't do one of these 90s Kevin Williamson type teen slashers without the big killer reveal in the end. And so in the climax of the film, we find out that the killer was, in fact, Rebecca Gayheart all along, one of Natalie's college chums. Now, Rebecca Gayheart is 5'7". She's maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. The stuntman who portrays the killer throughout the film is Matt Berman. I couldn't get his size, but let me tell you something. It's not 5'7". So the killer appears to be this huge looming figure the whole time in this generic ass dime store parka that apparently every single person on campus owns. And then we find out that it was this diminutive woman all along. Despite her size, we're to believe she was able to hold a grown man's head down in a toilet, strangle another one with a rope, and then carry all the corpses of her victims up several flights of stairs to set them up in
I'm
scary
objecting.
positions in an
I'm
abandoned
objecting.
dorm.
Objection.
Okay, let's hear the objection.
Are you saying you don't believe Rebecca Gayheart can kill?
I don't believe Rebecca Gayheart can carry full, like Robert Englund's unconscious corpse or dead corpse.
I find this whole thing sexist, and I would like to object to that. I think women can kill, and
She did, by the way.
She
absolutely.
can kill. I don't have the problems where she's not purely overpowering men who are bigger than her.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
All right, please continue, Mr. Maynard.
Now, let's talk about this killer's motives. Why were they doing it the whole time? We find out at the end that the killer's motives are that Natalie, who is our protagonist, and her friend Michelle had incidentally killed Rebecca's boyfriend while playing a prank some years before. They followed him, flashing their headlights, and apparently this dude was a terrible driver, so he crashed and died. Now, I have no idea why the authorities were so lenient on these two and didn't choose to pursue second-degree murder charges against these two young, beautiful, white women. Oh, wait, no. I just heard myself saying it out loud.
Objection.
So I withdraw my comment.
Okay.
I get it. So Michelle, who was the wheelman that night, is the first victim in the movie and gets axe murdered. And the killer spends the rest of the film psychologically tormenting and killing everybody adjacent to Natalie, who was in the passenger seat that night, slowly working up to ultimately murdering her. Now, wait a tick, movie. Why are you passing a worse punishment onto Natalie, the passenger? Shouldn't the passenger have been killed first in the movie and the killer worked her way up to killing the driver, who is clearly the more guilty party? Did you just make Natalie the passenger so I'd have some ability to empathize with her? Because you know I certainly would never do so if she were the driver? Well, tough luck, movie, because knowing Natalie was party to an obvious second-degree murder, I still found it hard to really care what happened to her.
I didn't like her at all, so I have no argument there.
Yeah,
Right.
I got nothing on that. You can have that one. You can have it. Put a point
All right.
on your side. Go ahead.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
And I got one last one to send us on home. We
All
talked
right,
about
note that down.
we
Here
talked
go.
about all these wonderful urban legend kills. A lot of the murders based on urban legends are dependent on the cooperation of other people and therefore completely outside of the murderer's control. Now, what if the gas station attendant, played by the beloved Brad Dourif, didn't peek into the first victim's back seat and see someone hiding there? And what if then he didn't try to warn her? Or what if he just pulled the door open and screamed, "Get out of that back seat, you bad old murderer, you!"
Objection. He has a stutter. He could hardly talk.
Yes, Mr. Banks, you will have to do that scene again with the stutter, please.
I won't do that. I've already offended too many people this episode.
Fair enough.
But what if he wasn't a creepy stuttering guy who terrified her into driving away in fear? If all of these events didn't happen perfectly the way they did, then the urban legend couldn't be recreated. It would just be a generic axe murdering. But the killer couldn't control any of these factors. They're based on other people's behavior. And the same can be said of many of the killings in the film. What if Joshua Jackson's character of Damon Brooks hadn't stepped out of the car to urinate? What if our protagonist Natalie hadn't repeatedly walked in on her goth roommate having sex and therefore was not used to turning on the lights when she heard strange sounds? What if Parker hadn't vomited at the sight of his microwave dog, enabling him to have his head held under the toilet water till he blacked out? These are not things that were within the killer's control. So there's no surefire way for the killer to be positive they can recreate these urban legends, which was their whole scapegoat for getting away with the murders in the end.
But I don't think the killer was trying to get away with the murders. The killer.
She said she was. She said she was.
Did she?
Yes, she said she was going to blame all the killings on Robert Englund.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, but here's the thing. Number one, it's a movie. We must suspend our disbelief. It's a slasher movie. We must really suspend our disbelief. Like more so than other movies. But also too, like, I mean, the reason that these things have to happen this way is because even if you're not intimately familiar with these legends, they're in there somewhere. You've heard them all. You've heard The Hook. You've heard Lover's Lane. You've heard Bloody Mary. You've heard, the Hatchet Man in the back seat. Like you know these somewhere in your DNA. And so of course, like it's got to sort of play out that way. It's like when you're hearing a song by the Rolling Stones, you know what's coming, right? You've heard the songs for decades, right? You know what the next chorus is going to be. You know what the next verse is going to be. And I think that's why this movie works, is that they are playing into these old tropes that are familiar and yet sort of terrorizing, because it's always the thing about an urban legend is it's always like my friend's brother's cousin's former roommate's uncle swears that he knew a guy that was killed by someone hiding in the back seat with a hatchet. And here we are in the movie where it's not the friend of the friend of the friend of the friend. It's you're seeing it in real time, and that just brings it on home and makes this a movie that works.
I'd like to say an axe is a terrible weapon to kill someone from a back seat with. You don't have the room to swing it very well.
Agreed.
Not even if you're 5'7" and tiny?
Not with that attitude.
I would also like to mention that this movie, written by Silvio Horta, directed by Jamie Blanks, neither one of these gentlemen had any horror experience before. So it shows. But I think we should allow them points for actually putting out a decent movie, given no experience.
All right, well, we'll let the jury decide that. And Mr. Bangs, you were going to rest on that last point?
I will rest on that point.
All right, then. So thank you, Mr. Bangs. And Mr. Belanger and Mr. Auger, you may present any further exhibits you would like to in defense of urban legend.
Jeff, let's tag team this one. I do want to go back to the fact that there was some very clever casting in urban legend.
Yes.
First of all, you talk. Let me start with the famous, the cameos, the throwbacks to horror of yesterday. with Robert Englund, of course, the professor, Wexler, who had a larger role than I remember. Robert was excited about doing the movie based on the screenplay. Now, this is a fact. This is a quote. I don't know what the quote was. I think it was like, "Hey, I like this screenplay." So we'll go with that.
Paraphrased.
I'm paraphrasing, yes.
We'll put
and
that in the record.
He enjoyed the other actors as well. So to have Robert Englund, a fan of the screenplay, perhaps the screenplay was different. I have no proof whether it was or was not, but he was a fan. Elaborate a little bit on Robert Englund's part there, Jeff.
Yeah, and he was probably pretty excited to play a man not in makeup, where you can actually recognize him for his work. But like the fact that
What you're saying, Jeff, is he would have taken any movie. So let's strike that. From the
yeah,
record.
okay. Not the strongest.
It's not helping
argument.
us.
Not helping us. Okay, so what I love about Freddy Krueger, right, is that plays on so many tropes. Like if you fall in your dream and you die, and if you die in your dream for real, you really die. And, so like there's so many great things that Friday the 13th played off of, and to see him as the professor. Because Friday, no, I'm sorry, not Friday the 13th, forgive me, Nightmare on Elm Street. Because that movie played on a lot of urban legend tropes too, right? And so to see it sort of come full circle for him, I was giddy. I was as giddy as when we saw the reboot of Star Wars and there was the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, whoa, look, it's him. So that was just a wonderful bit of casting for me. And go ahead.
And to add in Brad Dourif, of course, Chucky, who is such a name in the horror world and just cinema in general, and Danielle Harris, who played one of Michael Myers' potential victims in Halloween 4 and 5, another nice throwback to horror fans.
Absolutely, and so this thing, this movie played on almost like a greatest hits of the slasher films of the day, but also urban legends, and also still gave you the plot twists. And sure, is it cheesy, especially by today's standard? Absolutely, but it's also got that familiarity that I think made it a little bit better than your typical slasher film. I think it had an angle for us.
And then let's just talk about the main characters here: Jared Leto and Rebecca Gayheart, Michael Rosenbaum, Joshua Jackson, Tara Reid, all big names as far as teen actors go at the time, or early 20s. Alicia Witt was the only wild card there. And from what I understand, and you know what? I think this movie would have been a better movie had Reese Witherspoon, who said no, Sarah Michelle Gellar, who said no, and Jennifer Love Hewitt, who said no. So Alicia Witt was at least fourth in line for that role.
Wow. I was not, Ray, you are just a font of, thank goodness you're here, because I would have been drowning here. I think one other point we do need to make, which is critical, is that this movie had a budget of $14 million.
Oh.
And it made $72.5 million.
Jeff, that is perfect. That's great. And considering all the names that were in this for the time, that budget is very low.
And I'm just saying it made money.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
So in the court of public opinion, this movie already won. It is a victory.
I mean, if we're going to use box office gross, then we can use the lack of critical warm reception to counter that, because critics certainly didn't like this film very much at all.
We Americans vote with our wallets. We don't care what the critics say. We don't care what the polls say. We don't care what we don't care what the scientists say. We vote with our wallets.
Jeez. I mean... And we forgot to mention John Neville, too, who is known for 1994's Baby's Day Out.
Oh, of course. Well, that's not naturally. I forgot to mention it. And let's also mention, too, and
right here.
I know I'm all over the place with this, but let's also mention, it made a lot of money. It warranted a sequel. I don't know if it warranted one, but it made enough money for a sequel.
That's right. Final cut.
Final cut.
God.
I owned Final Cut on VHS. Didn't have the first one.
Oh, you own the prosecution owns. I'm just saying.
The sequel. I owned the sequel.
Which wouldn't exist without the first one.
There's several investigations into Mr. Bangs for misconduct already. We don't need to throw this onto the
But as far as the counter to the money that the film pulled in, it did have low ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Right now, the critic score is 24%.
Ooh.
So. Doesn't affect my feelings personally.
No,
for this movie.
No.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people saw it. How many of those people who left happy?
2 of us.
I heard an urban legend that people were crying for refunds. I don't know if it's true though.
I want my goddamn refund.
Nice urban legend you're starting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll let the jury decide that for sure. Mr. Auger, Mr. Belanger, is there another point you'd like to bring up?
I'd like to bring up some of the pop culture references in this movie. We had the horror references, which was very fun as you're watching a horror movie. That's what you want to see. But there was a couple fun pop culture references that were thrown into the writing, which I would consider a golden script. When you have Joshua Jackson starting the car, and what plays from the radio but the Dawson's Creek theme song from
Yes.
Paula Cole, I Don't Want to Wait.
Right.
Right? And
So
then
good.
at the end of the movie, as the killer is talking to the new students, one of them says, "Yeah, I heard that Brenda, the killer, was the Noxema girl." Well, Rebecca Gayheart was the Noxema girl. That is golden writing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Another Easter egg for those of us that pay attention. Love it.
I like that. I like that a lot. How about you, prosecution?
No, it's tasteless fourth wall breaking, and it's stupid. Like, it makes me laugh because I go, wow, the writer didn't give a fuck, did he?
I wonder if he got some of the back end. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We got something in his back end. I tell you.
All right. Hey, order in the court here. All right. Is there defense? Anything else you'd like to bring up here?
I mean, there's so much, but what kind of time do we have?
I can't wait for part 4.
You have as much time as you need, sir. But if you feel comfortable, you can rest your case as well. If you
I think I'd like to add that this movie gets better with time in a nostalgic sense. We go back, we watch Scream, and then we watch. Oh, I love that movie. We got to watch the rest of them, and then perhaps you throw in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm-hmm.
This movie fits in perfectly in 2021 with that time period of genre. So my argument is that looking back, perhaps when it came out, the ratings were low for it. The box office wins on this one, as we mentioned.
You can determine that. Objection.
But perhaps, well, I'm sorry, Judge.
No, please continue.
Okay.
It's fine. We'll overrule that objection for now.
I would say if you were going to make a top 5 list of late 90s teen slasher movies, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a list that doesn't have urban legend on it. I rest my case.
Well said, sir. I have nothing to add.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Very spirited today in court. Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Bangs, you may begin.
Your Honor, distinguished members of the jury, you can't pour liquid Drano and Pop Rocks down someone's throat and then pretend you recreated an urban legend. There is no urban legend about drinking Drano and Pop Rocks. The legend is about soda and Pop Rocks. You cannot just substitute soda for liquid Drano and then pretend that the Pop Rocks had any contributing factor to their death. They didn't. It was all the liquid Drano. You could have poured liquid Drano and anything down their throat and they would have almost surely died. It's cheating, movie. It's goddamn cheating, and you're goddamn guilty, and I'll see you burn in movie hell.
Allow me to address that, Ray.
Well, hold on. You can address it in your closing, Mr.
I
Belanger.
thought you were done. I thought we were done. Okay.
Yeah. No. So that was his closing argument, and now you can make yours. So thank you, Mr. Bangs, Mr. Belanger, Mr. Auger. You can present your.
Jeff, go right ahead.
Let me just start there, and then Ray, you can take over. When we were children, we played the telephone game, where you whisper a sentence to the kid next to you, and it goes around the room, and so on and so on. And by the time it gets to the end, it's changed quite a bit, right? We all recall that. However, there's nuggets in there that stay consistent through it, and that is how a legend works. A legend has some truth, some piece of it that carries forth. So the fact that it was Pop Rocks and anything else is still part of the original element is still there. That you can't detract because they used Pop Rocks and something else. In fact, if anything, they improved the legend. Now they really did make it lethal. Now it is lethal. Right? It wasn't before because Mikey's still alive. Mikey's still out there somewhere working in an ad agency in New York. And now it's lethal. The story element is there. It carries. That's how legend and lore work. Mr. Auger.
I'd like to add to that sentiment by bringing to attention the fact that movies like this always contain a twist. Okay, we've seen it in Scream with the killers, two killers at the end of Scream. I object to myself. I'm sorry, I did not say spoiler alert.
Oh, we
I
have one at the
apologize.
beginning of the show. You're
Good, good. All right. And I think that the twist in this particular scene is the fact that they use Drano. Every time somebody had a drink of their soda, we were thinking, where's the Pop Rocks? Here comes the urban legend, and here comes the death. Nobody saw Drano and Pop Rocks being used in advance. That was the twist. The movie is full of them, as Rebecca Gayheart being the lumberous killer at the end.
No.
I will mention though, there is a few scenes where you can see the bulk and height of her boots. She was obviously wearing some kind of lift contraption down there to make her a little taller. And I will also argue, and I may be out of turn here, but I will argue that this school is set in New Hampshire, and we all can agree that New England weather is very, very unpredictable. There is no reason why everyone on campus wouldn't have a parka of that type in their closet somewhere.
Well, thank you very much.
We got
Thank
a
you
rattle,
both.
Jeff.
Yeah. shaken and stirred.
Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Big Ben Hassler, and Mr. The Call is coming from inside Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of the sin of being a bad movie and shall forever be damned to movie hell. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
A whole film about urban legends and not a single reference to Nessie. I call foul, sir.
I didn't know the bailiff actually watched the movies too.
Nessie's not an urban legend.
That's
Just
true.
saying.
Cryptid.
Nessie's
Not
real.
to get
Nessie's
all
real.
expert on you, but there it is.
Cryptozoid.
No.
All right, what are we thinking, guys? Ben, I want to hear from you.
This is a Scream ripoff, and I hate it. You know, like just the fact that we are going to using that as like sort of it's being okay to like sort of knock off other films that, you know, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking like Atlantic Rim is a knockoff of Pacific Rim. You know, that doesn't save it for me. But that
It's
said,
not Atlantic Rim levels. Come on.
no, it's not that bad, but
It's close,
It does.
though.
It's very close. It does have a good way of rehashing Scream, I think, in a way that's not direct, by using urban legends as like sort of your, you know, structure of killing people. Okay, that's an interesting twist. Good job. You found a way to do it. But everything else, I think it fails for me. I don't know. I don't really find myself enjoying much of anything.
The only way it could be more derivative is if they said, okay, well, they're killing people based on unscary movies. That's really the only way that you can even approach that. Like, this is derivative to the
It
core.
arranged for them to be on a big boat
And
that
not-
got hit by an iceberg.
Yeah.
Like that parka, was that supposed to be like on par with the Scream mask? You know, it's just a parka.
Yeah, I don't know. And by the way, there's no parka that is so dark inside of it that you can't see somebody's face.
Oh, she was wearing a mask
I'm
at one
sorry to
point,
say.
I think, but like
Ugh.
they.
Fucking
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the
The fact that
parka
everyone has
is
it,
a
that
little
is
weird.
annoying.
Well, see, what you guys...
Yeah, that's specific parka too, not a parka. That's
That's
specific
specific.
parka.
but
right.
this is what you guys don't know. See, in New England, we have a place called Ocean State Job Lot that sells the same of everything on special. So everyone got that parka that was normally $200.
Everyone from like fashionable
they
teens
got,
to like
yes,
old
they
college
all got it
professors
for $50 and got a $50 gift card back.
For all we
Ocean
know,
State Job Lot does
Evil
not
kids
sponsor
like
this
looking
show.
like their
for all we
parents.
know, there was a flyer that went around campus.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's probably.
Actually,
And how come Robert England
Yeah.
has a secret
England.
passage?
Yeah, you had it
Is
right.
it England?
England.
Okay. How come he has like a secret room in his office?
I mean, it's a closet, Ben. That's not a secret room.
No, it's a secret room.
When you survive a deadly attack, that's what they give you instead of giving you tenure.
It's like it's
They
not a
just give you a
closet;
secret
it's a
room in your
whole
office.
room.
Well, there's
I mean-
obviously issues that are on the cutting room floor with that professor. There was a whole other storyline that they went to explore and then decided the movie's too long. And I would have
it
liked
was
to have
too long.
seen that.
There's a lot in the deliberation room. I am too.
Okay, everyone out of the deliberation room.
Oh, I'm
so
not
we
supposed to
can
be here.
deliberate.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, the bathroom's through here. It gets
The
very
bathroom
awkward.
is through here, so it
Oh,
happens.
Yeah, it does.
Dylan, What do you think?
Well, okay, so don't get me wrong, I'm with you guys. It's just there's just so much wrong with this, and it's just such a hacker. And having when you watch Scream, so like one thing I would disagree with the defense, like I don't think I would necessarily put this on a list. Like if I watch Scream, I could see going to watch The Faculty after that. You know what I mean?
I could see. What's the other one?
I know what you did last summer. I could see that ending up on the list. I don't see Urban Legends ending up on the list, but I will say the defense went in with a clear mission. They said, look, this isn't great, but we want to argue it to not bad. And I thought they put forward a very good case as far as getting it over the line to not bad. So I don't think that's a hard pill to swallow based on the arguments we heard today. But I gotta say, I'm struggling getting over the way the killer was presented, and it kind of box you out for being able to solve.
She goes from like 0 to insane in 0.3 seconds, doesn't she? This is not the same person that was at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, and the structure, I think Maynard just nailed it. The reason they're tormenting the passenger is because the writers knew we wouldn't feel sympathy for the driver, even though it would make sense to torment the driver.
Yeah.
So right.
That's the thing. I think you could make a case that you could actually make her sympathetic, but they just didn't bother to do it.
They didn't. By her own guilt. There, she's sympathetic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or she actually did serve time, or she was really repentant for her crime. I mean, you're right.
It's a shortcut.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think I'm definitely closer to where you guys are. So if you want to start locking in some decisions, I'm fine with that too. But you're the foreman, Ryan. I'd like to hear from you.
Yes, I am. Yes. Well, I mean, I've exhausted. I fucking hate this movie. I fucking hate this movie so much.
Even Michael Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I do actually.
Oh, I love.
I mean, and I love Michael Rosenbaum. He's the best Flash as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
But not in this movie. No, thank you. Pacey, no, thank you. Alicia Witt, okay, I could see it. But Tara Reid somehow gives the worst Tara Reid performance, and that's really saying something.
I'll take her in. I'll take her in this over Tara Josie Reid, and the baby. Pussycats every day.
Oh no!
Yes, I'm putting down a marker. I'm putting down the marker.
She was better in Josie.
Shame on you. Oh, you're such a bad person. Yeah, so I know where I'm leaning. Ben, I can already guess, but I'd like to hear you lock in.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting people in here. It had a great concept, but if you ever watch a movie just because some person's in it, you're almost always disappointed. So there's just nothing here for me. Just that interesting concept for making a Scream rehash, but that's not enough. So guilty.
Yeah, I'm gonna go guilty as well.
I'm gonna tip my hat to the case of the defense. I think they came in and accomplished their mission, so I'm gonna say not guilty based on their arguments. But I mean, the movie's guilty. Who are we kidding? Let's go out there, or you should say that, not me.
Let's go tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Urban Legend, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Yeah! Order.
Ray, I think we got this.
Our chances are good, Jeff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. On the appeal, we're gonna kick ass on the appeal.
The appeal, of course. So the verdict is so rendered. I hereby declare Urban Legend to be flushed into hell, where we'll actually survive and grow, thereby limiting sightings of Urban Legend to only those who plumb the cinematic sewers. Court is adjourned.
Disgusting.
Miscarriage of justice.
This is Belanger reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. Maynard Baines, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Yes, I would, Belanger. One, I think this is a great day of justice for sexist cinematic lawyers such as myself. We finally put our flag down. I think that the defense drew an unlucky card in that I drew prosecution because if I was on the jury, there's a strong chance they would swayed me. I like slashers. But I can sleep at night knowing this one's going to be condemned to movie hell. I won't lose any sleep over that.
Thank you very much, sir. And here comes Jeff Belanger and Ray Auger. Could I get a word on your thoughts on today's verdict?
I've got one word to start. Auger. Auger.
Auger.
Yeah.
Ben Gore, you're making us look bad.
Listen, I think there was a lot of bias in the courtroom today.
Yeah.
With all parties. Jeff?
Oh, completely. I'm totally biased.
I feel like we walked
first, folks.
I feel like we walked into this courtroom and lost right out of the gate.
Yeah, I know, it's doomed.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to defend a guilty guy. Like sometimes you know he did it, but you still got to try your best to get him off. Am I right?
I just want to add that every movie is a ripoff of another movie. We all know that Police Academy 5 comes straight from the script of Terms of Endearment. It's the same movie.
Right.
So every movie is ripping off another movie.
That's true. If we held it to that standard, they'd all be guilty.
Exactly.
And yet, we likes what we likes. Am I right?
Yeah.
Well.
And that's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
It sounds like a character from a Speedy Gonzalez
Oh,
cartoon.
God.
No.
Let's throw Ben Gore into hell with the movie, okay?
No.
We're getting rid of Ben Gore.
It sounds like a character that was cut from Urban Legend.
It could have been.
Could have been.
Well, it's a good thing they cut
Yay.
that thing.
Hey, man,
Ray,
hurt.
Jeff, you guys put on a really funny... It was a good case. I was cracking up the whole time.
It was, yeah.
It was a good case. And well fought. Well fought.
Well, the sad thing was, this is a movie I truly adore.
You can still love it. You can still. I love bad movies. I love a bunch of shitty movies, like a whole lot.
No, I will say it's not the best. And Jeff called me last night or texted me right in the middle of the movie and said, I need some crackers for this cheese. And I almost knew what line he was talking or listening to at that moment. And I'm like, yes, you have to take the cheese with the rest of the movie. But I think Scream, as endearing as that movie is, probably a near perfect horror movie, still has a nice layer of Swiss on it.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
but it's aware. It's aware of it.
We actually put Scream on trial. Believe it or not, we had a guy came on that wanted to prosecute.
That was last Halloween.
That was last Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, this is like your guys' reason for the season here, right? This is like you guys. You guys are super spooky. So what do you got going on for the holiday here?
I got a trick or treat with the kids. It's probably gonna be that Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then
our plug-in stuff. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Right.
Oh man.
I'll take it from here, Ray.
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
Oh man, yeah. So our podcast, New England Legends, we're doing, but we do spooky all year round. We don't just wait for October. So we'll have another Halloween special. One year, Ray and I got to do a whole podcast live from the actual house that the movie The Conjuring is based on. That was really amazing.
Nice.
And experienced something, Jeff.
Yeah, something weird happened.
What happened?
Some things fell from the wall. We caught it on 2 cameras, and everybody that was with us, we examined the footage and all that, and it was something that was totally unexplainable.
It was amazing.
But the house didn't tear apart.
No, not like the movie. No, it was a dumbed down version of the movie.
No one would watch that movie. Yeah, no, for sure.
But who's going to play you in the movie, guys?
Jeff, and then the year after that, we went to Lizzie Borden's house.
Lizzie Borden house. We did that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I would tell you what we're doing this Halloween, but it's a super top secret, and it means we don't really know yet. But
Shining Hotel.
I've been to the Shining Hotel, the Stanley. I've been there like 7 times. It's I love this stuff, and I love this that once a year for. What's funny, when I was a kid, the Halloween season was like a week, and now it's easily like 2 months. The Halloween candy's out right now, and it'll keep going into November. It'll go right up to like the second week of November. So I love that we get the spotlight on this. This is our Day of the Dead. This is our holiday, and so it's such a great time to take the spotlight. I have a story tour all through October, so pretty much every night I'm doing telling legends and weird lore all over the place. So it's my favorite time of year, even though it's crazy busy. I love that we get the spotlight and get to talk about our favorite subject.
Yeah, it's the best holiday.
For sure.
It is
really
a lot of
is.
fun. It is a lot of fun.
Easily the best one.
I like Arbor Day myself.
Yeah.
All right, so
movies,
hey,
No good
Ray
movies
and Jeff,
about
I got a legend to pitch to you.
Mm.
The town we live in, Sterling, Connecticut, it has a tank in a park. Maybe you could do something with that.
Ooh, a
Just
tank.
a tank.
There's got to be
Uh,
a
uh,
story, right?
Is it
There's
like a
got to
sep-
be a story there, right?
Like a
It's an
septic
action.
tank? Is it a septic tank?
No. This is like a World War II actual tank, just right in the middle of the park.
Is it like a monument, or does somebody leave it behind?
Well, that's what that you guys got to find
Okay,
out
we'll
for
find
me.
out.
All right.
Spoilers, monuments.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards monument. I'll send.
And for your episode, you could call it Tanks for Nothing.
Yeah.
So we did a story once. Oh God, it was in New Hampshire, Ray. I don't remember the town, but there's a missile, a legit missile, on display in the town green.
That's what made me think of the tank one. That's a great
Yeah.
episode too. Yeah.
And, yeah, that was. I forget the town. It's killing me, but it was.
I don't know. You write these things.
It was
I know.
Missileville, right?
It was the missile. It was the missile that was the prelude to like the very earliest rockets that took
It was
Americans
Boomsburg.
into space. Yeah, I mean, how cool is it that people's like, oh, I got a tank. Let's just put it on the town green and God bless America. And
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
Yeah.
and you leave it, and people go, oh, all right, there's a tank there. I mean, why not?
I think James.
now there's a
Garner-
plaque.
I think James Gardner left it behind.
That's right. Oh,
Anybody?
nice. I got it. I got that one.
Ah,
Yeah,
nice.
I got it. Tank. Yeah, good one.
Yes.
I mean
So
it.
sincere. Yeah, we got it. Yeah, right. Let me do the talking.
Well, of all like the cryptozoological kind of creatures that are supposed to be rumored to exist but haven't confirmed, well, what's the one you believe in most?
Personally, I think it's Bigfoot, and I know that's strange to say, but
No, I don't think
know.
so.
I don't know if it's the actual Bigfoot we see in the books, or on those Discovery Channel shows. But I think there is something living out there.
I'm gonna go with Champy, the lake monster.
Oh yeah.
And or any number of like sea serpents that we've done so many sea serpent stories. Literally in the late 1800s, the Boston Globe ran an article at one point saying we're not going to cover sea serpents anymore. The fact they exist is a foregone conclusion. I mean, you're talking about like 100-foot long serpent-like snakes that have been seen in the waters right off the coast, and people would like literally put out lawn chairs and watch them and talk about it and write about it. And so I mean, I love that. I love that these things just keep coming up, no matter what you believe or don't believe.
I'm going with leprechauns or
Oh God, stop!
No, seriously. Every time the ghost hunters they would go and look for leprechauns or pixies or fairies, they always saw the weirdest crap in their little in the heat sensor thing. They'd always see three little figures walking and stuff. Very convincing stuff to me.
I'm going with Bigfoot as well. I'm with Ray on that one.
Well, I do like Bigfoot, but I don't even I consider Bigfoot just real now. I don't even consider him even a rumor anymore. So,
Absolutely.
we always ask our guests for a recommendation. Now that it's Halloween, it's a heck-commendation of a movie that you think people should see. So, what is a movie you think people should check out? Ray, if you want to go first.
Sure, I'm going to give you two because they're made by the same guy, Josh Rubin, who gave us Scare Me a couple of years ago, which him and Aya Cash stars two people trying to scare each other in a house. They were in the middle of a snowstorm. Oh, this is kind of funny because it leads into the next one. It's funny. It's action-packed. It's for what it is. And it's very spooky. He wrote, directed, produced, and starred in it. And then he just directed a movie called Werewolves Within, which is based on a video game.
Nice.
And that's set in a snowstorm as well. There's a house. Everyone's locked in a house. There's a werewolf within, and they have to find out who. They have to find out who it is. But both those movies from the very talented Josh Rubin.
Yeah, no, Werewolves Within. It's great that it's got Sam Richardson.
Yep.
And he's funny as hell. Like anyone who's seen, I think
Oh,
you
yeah.
should leave with Tim Robinson,
Yep.
which is the funniest thing out there right now.
He's also great on Veep.
Yep.
Yeah, and Milana Vaintrub from those AT&T commercials.
And Other Space.
Yeah,
And she was she had a leading role in that. So that's the first time I had seen her outside of the commercials.
Yes.
yeah, and her comedic timing she's like really excellent, and her and Richardson together, that chemistry can't be topped. So I hope they get to make a lot more movies together or just in general at all. So great recommendation. Jeff, what have you got for us?
I'm going to go with a classic. I'm a big fan of The Exorcist. I think that's you
Nice.
got to go back to the old. And you know what else is a Halloween tradition for me? Rocky Horror. No apologies. Bring it.
Rocky Horror is a good one.
Right.
But
No
let's talk about The
apologies
Exorcist. I love I watched The Exorcist probably 4 or 5 times last Halloween. It's like my favorite horror movie.
It really holds up, which is so impressive, right? Because our tastes change so much over time, but I think that movie holds up. It's frightening. It's primal. And I was raised Catholic, which absolutely helps with the fear factor. Because when your kids, you're told like, yeah, you can get possessed by the devil, and then they call in an exorcist. Then you see this movie, and you're like, oh my god, like, this could really happen.
It's also funny how in some cases with time movies get better or genres get better, but I don't think anybody can top The Exorcist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not in terms of exorcism movies. I don't think they ever will. They
Right.
because they would lean on CGI too much, and you can't pass
yeah.
up. You need the practical effects for that.
Yeah,
to
that
really
poor
feel
little girl,
believable.
she almost broke her back in that
Yeah.
movie in real life.
Yes.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to make a better one.
I doubt that, Big Ben.
So, Rob, you were the prosecutor. What do you've got for us today?
So for my heckamendation this week, I'm going to take a page out of Big Ben's big book and heckamend a J-horror movie that I saw only for the first time this week, and that's 2003's One Missed Call, directed by
Good
Takashi Miike. Is that Miike? Say it for me, Ben. Miike, I was right. I'm terrible with names. It's about a vengeful spirit who calls the cell phones of his victims, its victims, who inevitably never answer the call for some reason, hence the title, and reveal the date and time of their deaths at the spirit's hands. And much like urban legends that pass from person to person, this spirit chooses its next victim from the contacts of its last victim, so it also passes from person to person or phone to phone. Ooh, super scary.
That's spooky.
It's very scary, and it had a fun little twist in the ending, and it was much better than the 2008 American remake. So don't bother wasting your time on that one. Watch the original
2 sequels.
Yeah, watch the original 2003 One Missed Call instead. It is currently available on Tubi as well as streaming on Amazon Prime.
Streaming's not a thing.
It is. I made it a
I'm
thing.
making it a thing.
We're making it a thing.
Stop trying to make fetch happen, Rob.
It's gonna happen. Dylan, what's your recommendation?
You mean my heckamendation?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay, very good. My heckamendation is a movie that I just want people to know exists. You probably actually shouldn't watch it. 2015's Most Likely to Die. It's about a group of friends that are brought together for their 10-year high school reunion and are one by one bumped off by a mortarboard-clad killer. What makes this movie so special is that Perez Hilton is in it. No, Ryan.
Oh, that famous blonde woman.
No, Rob and Ryan. I didn't say Paris Hilton. I said the famous gossip columnist Perez Hilton.
Yeah,
He takes a hilarious swing at acting as a 28-year-old despite being visibly 37. If you need a hacker to round out your slasher marathon this season, make it Most Likely to Die.
No, I don't think I will.
You really shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's so
Ryan,
bad.
what have you got for us?
My spooky heckamendation this week is one of my favorite underrated psychological thrillers of the last 4 decades or so. It's Richard Attenborough's 1978 film Magic. It's about a ventriloquist played by Anthony Hopkins who may have a split personality that manifests as his dummy, Fats. It is truly unnerving and features the one and only instance in cinema history of Burgess Meredith being bludgeoned to death with a wooden puppet, which is all I need to say to get this thing on your radar. It's currently streaming on Canopy and whatever the fuck Philo is.
Oh, Philo goes home.
It was my
So
last Scrabble hand. I
So
think.
it sounds like a horror version of like Scarface from Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Okay.
more like a horror version of those 2 Twilight Zone episodes about dummies.
Oh, those. Or what about Night of the Living Dummy? It's nothing like that.
No, it's
Big
just
Ben,
like
send us on
Monster
home.
Weird.
Can I not recommend a movie?
Yes.
Please.
Can I not recommend the Changeling with George C. Scott, which I was.
I liked that movie.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Hold on. It was promised to be the scariest movie you will ever see.
It's
Well,
not the
that's not
scariest
right.
movie.
They
I'm
want
not
to sell
even
you a
scared
ticket,
at all.
man.
Hour and 15 minutes. I'm like, where's the scares? So that's when I
No,
want.
it's a slow
Wait a
burn.
second. The ball coming off the stairs doesn't scare the living daylights out of you?
No, I've been dealing with that my whole life. I don't want to get into that.
So, man, you gotta make a whole new poster for anti-recommendations.
Just do it
No, I
backwards.
don't think I will.
Make it in reverse.
Thank you for entertaining me.
Quite all right.
That's true. Big Ben, send us on home.
I'm going to go with my favorite college self-aware slasher and recommend Happy Death Day. The film has tons of fun, and the lead is very energetic and can handle the transformation from just horrible person to heroine at the film's end. It's essentially Groundhog Day, but with slasher tropes. Treat yourself to a time loop and watch it again and again, although I don't think it's streaming or streaming for free anywhere, although you can rent it on pretty much every platform.
I like that one.
That is a good one. And it has a sequel, which is okay.
It is. It's all right. Yeah, it's not a horror movie anymore. It's more of a sci-fi sort of thing. But
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It kind of takes a weird turn there. Well, guys, as we start to wind things down here, we'd like to remind our listeners that if you leave us an iTunes review and send us a screenshot of it on either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook with the hashtag ROJ Reviews, you will be entered into an upcoming raffle for some really cool Reels of Justice swag.
And that raffle's totally going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real raffle.
It's a real raffle. There's real swag. We've got it.
And with that, we're all out of show for this week, but we want to thank our guests, Jeff and Ray, for joining us. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That
thanks
was
for having
fun.
us.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back sometime whenever
Absolutely.
you guys are free. And we hope everyone else will join us again as well as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Legends.
Auger.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.